Revelation 3993. From the 7th of March 1947. Transforming matter. Activity, blessing. Redemption. Divine love is not always recognizable but always at work to help people, as well as all spiritual substances which still languish unredeemed in material form. Every change is a help, and therefore the human being should also participate in the transformation of that which surrounds him as matter if it does not fulfill a serving purpose. Your love for the unredeemed is also expressed in the fact that you help him in spiritual adversity, and you can do this as soon as you open up serving possibilities for him. Everything that surrounds you suffers agony if it cannot be active, for it has the will to do so and has always been incorporated into the form on the basis of its will, which has a serving activity as its purpose. Therefore the human being must contribute to the spiritual not being prevented from serving in order not to prolong its agony but to help it become free from its form. Man's thoughts and aspirations, however, are directed towards acquiring possessions, gathering riches, and consequently he will only use a small part of his material possessions for their actual purpose, while the other, far greater part of his possessions will remain inactive because they are not permitted to be of service. And thus it is understandable how necessary it has become to dissolve the form of that spiritual substance which for a long time was already bound in matter without having been supplied to its actual purpose. It is understandable that God Himself helps the spiritual substance where man's help fails, where his greed for earthly possessions drove him to collect material goods without taking the actual purpose of those goods into account. It is understandable that God has taken those goods from people and thereby gives the spiritual being, which is still in matter, increased opportunity to serve and redeem itself. And at the same time He exerts pressure on the human being to participate in the work of redemption by letting him get into situations of hardship which shall drive him to undertake material transformations in order to make unusable matter usable again. The human being is given countless opportunities to be creatively active in times when all possessions have been destroyed, and he should exhaust these opportunities so that it will be a blessing for himself and for the spiritual substance, so that lively activity will start everywhere. For this alone is redeeming and increases the degree of maturity of the spiritual, whereas inactivity means a standstill in the development of the spiritual and will never find God's approval. The gathering of earthly goods will only be beneficial if increased activity arises from it. If everything spiritual bound in it is admitted to an activity which corresponds to its purpose. If the material goods find the use which corresponds to their nature. And this has to be helped by people, for the spiritual substance in matter is mostly dependent on people's help insofar as they have to assign it its purpose or let new creations arise through their will and vitality where the spiritual substance was deprived of the opportunity to serve. And that is why the work of eager hands is a great blessing. That is why diminished material possessions will always encourage eager activity, and this will be of the greatest advantage for the spiritual in matter as well as for the human being himself. For the process of redemption of all spiritual can only continue if it is enabled to be of service and can thereby overcome the external form time and again until, as a human being, it can carry out its own service and thereby finally redeem itself. Amen.